How's it going, everyone? King Blacktooth here. So I've just put up my Christmas decorations, which is the perfect time to play some more Gwent. So I'm going to analyse the changes in patch 0.8.25. Now we saw the CD Projekt Red stream, they showed a lot of decent stuff, but there is more stuff that was revealed in the patch notes. So now we have a full patch notes list that I'm going to go through in the order that it's shown there, rather than trying to put it all together, which would take a considerable amount of time. So there are a lot of changes, so let's just get straight into it, shall we? So here's the full patch notes, the full change list, and I may talk about some particular points more than others and elaborate more if it's a bigger change or maybe it has a huger impact into the game. So there are some minor things which I may just glance over, like changes to strength. I will comment upon it if, however, it really, I feel, affects how that card is played in certain circumstances. So first of all, we've got the revamped Clear Skies. So this has been changed mainly because the developers definitely felt like it was a useless card for a lot of people. If you took it, it would often become a dead card because they weren't playing weather, and most people don't have a way to reshuffle it back into the deck and redraw something else. Skellige and maybe a bit of Squirtle do. So they've changed it so it's a lot more accessible. It's got a dual use now. So it's now called First Light, and it's a choice card, a special card, and you get a choice of two things. Firstly, you get the choice of using the Clear Skies, so acts the same as usual, which is really nice. Or you can have a rally effect, and what the rally effect does is it pulls a bronze unit at random from your deck and plays it. So, two really good options there. Pull a random bronze unit from your deck and play it, or Clear Skies. So it's always going to be useful, okay, unless you've got no more bronze units in your deck. So really very good card. I think a lot of people are thinking this is going to be quite a powerful card. I think a lot of people are going to take it. I think it's going to hurt weather decks. It's undeniable that it will hurt weather decks. So maybe it won't be that necessary. But the main reason why people are liking it is because it does thin your deck down. When you get a First Light in your hand, it basically is a wild card in that it could be any other one of your bronze units. Now, if you want specific bronze units, it might not be that good. But for like my big monster deck, it doesn't matter what bronze unit I generally get. Any of them are good. So, a wild card really helps thin your deck down. So a lot of people will be probably taking about 2, maybe 3 of these, because you can also beat weathers with it, which is really nice. So the main reasons why it might not be as good as people are thinking, I think it's still very good, but you might get diminishing returns when you're playing this card to thin your deck. So I think Skellige is probably the prime example of this. You can thin your deck too much, I think. You can put the Clandemon Pirates in, you can put 3 First Lights in, you've got King Bran, you've got Ermion and stuff, and loads of stuff is going to the graveyard, and you end up with no actual units to play most of the time. So you've got to worry about that. The second thing is, people might be tempted to use First Light to pull a bronze unit from their deck to try and win one particular round, and then you don't have any Clear Skies later on. So I think that's something people will be tempted to do. Oh, I need another unit to beat him. I'm just going to play First Light, and then later on you get weathered and, you get screwed. So it's going to be a tough choice to use First Light as a non-clear weather, especially if you know the opponent's got a clear weather option. What it can be really good for is things like Isengrim. So he has changed, but generally, he looks at how many special cards are played in some form or another. We'll get onto him later. But this might act as 2 special cards. Because First Light is a special card itself, the Clear Sky is another. Or First Light is a special card, and I believe the Rally effect is also a special card, and then it pulls a bronze unit from your deck. So could count as 2 special cards, which is actually really beneficial, as well as pulling a bronze unit or Clear Skying, which is really, really nice. So a really nice card. I think a lot of people are going to use it. Weather decks are going to get hurt. So don't forget, weather decks will be running about 3, 4, maybe 5 weathers. They probably won't get them all, but you probably won't get all of your First Lights. So it might not be as catastrophic as you think with people that are going focus solely on weather. I think Aeromancy is going to go down quite a bit because that's just a random weather and people will have random First Lights to get rid of that. But we'll have to see. I think dedicated weather decks, I would hope, still have a chance because they can keep pushing you. It means you can't pull bronze units out of your deck, so you are going to be weaker for clearing these weathers, and people might struggle with a choice there. And to follow on from that, Dagon, the monster leader, can now choose First Light as a choice. So he's got the access to Biting Frog, fuck. Biting Frost, Impenetrable Fog, Torrential Rain, and First Light. And First Light is split into, again, Clear Skies and Rallying, a random bronze. So Dagon he's got such flexibility. He's actually pretty good now. A lot of people were thinking he was, not very good. Eredin was better, but I think the flexibility on Dagon is now great. You could take Dagon in a non-weather monster deck and use him as a Clear Skies now, which is really good. Or you could use him as pulling a bronze unit out. Won't be as strong as Eredin, so maybe it's not as good there, but it means that, you could cancel weather. It's a bit of backup in case they play weather in your non-weather monster deck. So Dagon's pretty good now. I think Gales is the weakest now because he's seriously vulnerable to Geralt Igni. I think most people want the change for Gales that anything less than 6 strength goes up to 6 strength, but anything higher stays where it is. That'll protect the row then. But Dagon looking good. Dag good. So the next monster change is to the Drowner. Finally, it's got an ability, and it seems to be a pretty good one. It's unique in this patch. There will be future cards coming out with similar abilities, but it's pretty interesting. Its strength has been reduced from 7 to 5, but its ability is that it can target a non-gold unit on the opponent's side of the battlefield and move it to the opponent's siege row. So obviously, it's very effective in monster weather decks, which we just thought weren't going to be that good, but maybe you don't need to take as many fogs, frosts, and rains because you're going to push everything to the siege row, and then you're just going to rain them and rain them and rain them and Skellige Storm them and Aeromancy them, So it's going to be a bit easier now due to this ability. And so I think it's really strong. It'd be very nice to see how it works and how people use it. I mean, there's a couple of nice synergies with this. You've got Lacerate. That would be amazingly good if you push a lot of things to the siege row and then lacerate them. You could push things which are frost immune to the siege row and then rain them because they're not immune to rain. Okay, there's a lot of really nice things. Obviously, you do have to be careful of Commander's Horn because you are improving their Commander's Horn potential as well. But a really nice ability and very unique in the next patch. So I can't wait to have a go with this guy. So a couple of strength changes now. Now, I'll glance over these quite briefly and just tell you kind of why they did it and what the reason is, I think. The Field Marshal Duda's strength has been changed from 1 to 3 in both his forms. So this is Zoltan Animal Tamer's bird. It's now 3 strength. So the main reason they did that is so that it won't die to Savage Bear so easily. Okay? And not only is this a buff, but it's also a bit of a nerf because it encourages you to use the buffing one because you're giving yourself more strength then, aren't you? You're giving +2 to all your row plus the 3 strength of the bird. Whereas the -2 one, you're giving 3 strength to the enemy as well as minusing 2. So it encourages the +2 one, the companion, but it's just so it doesn't die to the Savage Bear so much. Mahakam Defender strength changed from 3 to 4. So this is the resilient dwarf, okay? And it's pretty good. I like it. It means it won't be destroyed by Lacerate or Stammelford so easily. But you'll hear me say this a lot throughout this change list. I think people are going to start shifting onto Manticore Venom. I've already kind of seen a little bit of that recently, but also onto Alzor's Thunder. And this is like the first of many changes to strength, which I think will kind of encourage this, because he won't die to Lacerate, but he will die to Manticore Venom. Manticore Venom will hit multiple Mahakam Defenders for 4 strength each, because you most likely will have a multiple on the board as well. The Mahakam Guard strength has now changed from 3 to 4. This is the one that buffs another unit, and it now buffs non-dwarfs by 3 and dwarfs by 5. So, although that is a bit of a nerf, it means that it's generally not too big of an issue because you're mostly going to stick him in dwarven decks. There may be some circumstances where you don't put him in a dwarven deck, but for the most part, you'll mostly be targeting dwarves there. And it also is immune to frost, which is great. Now, obviously, everyone's saying they hoped the defender was immune to frost. That would have been really good. But Mahakam Guard being immune to frost, it just adds a little bit of nice reliability that against weather decks, you've got a little bit of a chance. You're going to put these onto the melee row to buff other things through frost, and he himself won't go down. So I really like that change. It means that if they're using a lot of weathers, you could start shifting your swallow potions onto this guy and hopefully still manage to pull through one particular round. The botchling now stays on the board for only 1 round. It's still a silver, so you can easily remove it. Only stays on for 1 round. That's quite a big nerf, really. I guess it is a gold card because you're talking the Baron here, but 1 round is not much at all, and there are changes to promotion stuff, so that kind of cheese is gone out. So that's quite a heavy nerf, really, to the Bloody Baron, in my opinion. So Nithrel's damage has been changed from 1 to 2. His strength has also changed. That'll probably come later, but I thought I'd mention it now. So Nithrel is now 6 strength instead of 7, and he wounds for 2 every time a Wild Hunt unit appears. So he's actually pretty good. I think a lot of people are going to be trying that particular deck out, because 2 strength wounding is really nice. That means when the Wild Hunt riders appear on the board, it's going to do 6 strength wounding. It's going to bring 9 strength onto the board. It's going to be a pretty good combo. But since he's 6 strength now, Alzor's Thunder can get rid of him. And I think a lot of people are going to be taking Alzor's Thunder for things exactly like this. He's a good one to try and get rid of because he's pretty good now. Okvis countdown has been changed from 5 turns to 4. Decent, 5 turns was a bit long. 4 is more reasonable. And I think this means, you'll see a little bit more play from him. But apparently he's quite good. I've never had the chance to use him. But 4 turns means you could probably use him in 2 separate rounds, I think, now. So you might be able to get him back, if you're lucky, twice, which is really good. So they've added the vampire category to Regis's vampire form. Now, there are vampires coming. There are vampire tags already existing, like the Ekimaras might be vampire tags, Regis. So they're going to do something with vampires in the future, which hopefully will be really interesting for monster decks. You stick Regis in there and you'll get some extra synergy, which will be really nice. So that's looking forward to that one. Mitebrak now deals 3-2-1 damage instead of 2-1-1. And his strength has been changed from 5 to 4. So he's got a strength reduction, but he's also got a strength increase in his wounding. Now, I don't know how I feel about that, because he's generally there, I think, to even out strength, try and get a Scourge. And 3 wounding might be too much. It might be more than you want. I would really like it if he could do 1 damage, 1 damage, 1 damage, 1 damage, 1 damage. So you could really tailor it. It might take a long time is the issue. I don't know. Click, damage, click, damage. Or maybe you could click, 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 click. I don't know. But I would really appreciate it if it was 1 damage, 1 damage, 1 damage, 1 damage, 1 damage, 1 blah, blah, blah. Just loads of 1s. Because then you could really tailor it all across the board. And I think you'd see a lot more play then. But for now, like if you've got something which is only 2 damage, then you'd have to do 3 wounding, 2 damage something else, 1 damage back on that. It might not work out too well. So although it's a bit of a buff, I'm not sure if it's going to work for what you think his ability is for. It's for leveling, for Scorch and Epidemics and stuff, in my opinion. The Ekimara can no longer consume unrevealed ambush cards. I didn't realize that was a thing. That would be well good. That'd be really good if you could do that, but you can no longer do it. I didn't realize you could do that. That's wow powerful. Hemdown now destroys Cambi, so you don't get to keep Cambi, 3 strength Cambi on the opponent's side, and he removes all weather effects. So it will be Cambi gets played, 3 strength gold. When Hemdown appears after the timer, Cambi will get removed. Hemdown stays on the board as 12 strength, 14 for Northern Realms. And he removes all weather and all non-gold units from the board. So, a little bit of extra use there, but I still think a lot of people thinking it's not going to be that good. But I'd love to see someone try and make this work. I don't know. I think that would... I don't think it's enough. Weather's not really an issue when you're getting rid of all non-golds anyway. I guess if they play like Ragnarok, you could play Hemdall and then continue from scratch again. But it doesn't seem that necessary to remove weather unless you plan on continually playing after you've played him, which is a bit weird because you've given him quite a bit of strength there. Players can now choose on which road to place agile units summoned by reinforcements. So that's kind of just a bug fix, I think. Fair enough. Harold now deals 3 damage to opposing weakened units, the wounded units, and 2 strength to all other opposing units. Harold can now damage gold units. Harold no longer damages unrevealed units. Okay. So, I think I don't like this, but I think I'm the only one. Okay? I'm not saying it's a bad change, it's actually a great change. So Harold deals 3 damage to people that are wounded and 2 damage to things that are not wounded. So his accessibility has just been flung open. You can use him whenever you want now for at least 2 damage on all non-wounded units. He can also attack golds now, wound gold cards. I think that was a bug fix. I'm pretty sure he was meant to do that, so I'm not even counting that into the equation on whether I think it's a bad change or whatever. And no longer damages unrevealed cards. I wasn't aware that he did, but apparently he did. Bug fix most likely. So the reason I don't like it is because I had to work quite hard to get my Harold the Cripple damage, and it felt good, and you could get rid of quite a lot of stuff for strength, you know? Whereas 3 damage to wounded, I won't be able to destroy certain things like the Lord of Undvik, 5 strength. With 1 Savage Bear, he'll go down to 4, and Harold the Cripple will not be able to finish him off. Okay? And there's a couple of other things that I won't be able to destroy with 1 Savage Bear. I'd need 2 on the board, or I'd have to Yennefer, or something like that. Okay? Really, what I would like is it does 1 strength. I'd just like the gap to be bigger. So 1 strength to things that are not wounded, and maybe 4 to things that are wounded. That might be too strong though, but I don't think so. I'd just like to feel more accomplishment for actually getting the wounding first. For following through with the game plan, I'd like to feel more accomplishment in doing so. So more wounding. But, you know, they are trying to reduce wounding across the board, so maybe I understand what they were going for here. They want to make it not so bad. But he will affect the entire board now. That is what's probably the best thing about Harold here. He affects the entire board for at least 2. Anything that's already wounded gets an extra 1 damage done to them. So I don't like it, but I can tell it's really good. It's going to be very useful for a lot of things now. Okay, it's not that I don't like it. It's just I just wish it was just a little bit more. The gap was a little bigger. You know, still 4 strength, but just maybe 1 strength for things that weren't damaged. But that's my only nitpick really, and I think I'm the only one that wants that as well. So Aglai's strength has been changed from 7 to 5. You know, she has kind of been nerfed in an indirect way. There's a lot of changes to Decoy, Commander's Horn, things like that, which we'll get onto soon. They're kind of big changes. I'm surprised they're not at the top, but I am doing this in just any old order. But 5 strength is pretty good, I think, because she is a powerful card. She's definitely a really strong card. The 7 strength is quite a lot, so 5 strength is fine. She should still be played. Barclay Owls now has the ability to affect gold dwarf cards. So Zoltan basically and Zoltan Animal Tamer, both of those will now get affected by Barclay Owls, which is great. Absolutely great. Now, we know in this patch and in future patches there's going to be an increased amount of demoting coming. So the main one that was shown was Dimeritium Shackles. We also have Dimeritium Bomb, which also affects gold cards. So Barclay Elves is not original strength. So, you know, it's a great change, but it will start to get countered a lot more often in the future. So Geralt Igni now requires the opponent's row that you want to scorch to be 20 or more strength rather than 15. And that's actually quite a big difference. I mean, there's a lot of times where I'm about 15 or 16, but not as many times when I'm 20 strength or higher on a particular row. So it's only 5 strength, but I think it would make a big difference. It's still probably worth it, but I think he's starting to lose a bit of his edge now, which is good. I like it because that means he's not an auto-include in every deck. You know, I mean, there's been several situations where I've had 7s split across the entire board. A Scorch would be able to remove all of them. Geralt could remove none of them. You know, there's situations like that. So I'm starting to see how, hopefully, we're going to see Scorch come back into play a little bit. And this is a good change, I think. You'll hear me say this a lot throughout this change list. I would really like it if he could do 1 damage, 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 1 damage.